Hello and welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be creating a cute Christmas card and we're going to be adding colour using the embossing folder in a couple of ways. So we are going to use an inky embossing technique and then we're also going to colour the embossed image. So I'm going to be using this really cute 3D embossing folder for July from Spellbinders, which is some cute snowflakes. So I'm going to ink that up, and when you're inking it up you want to make sure that you're inking up the part that has the brand name on. That's usually the front, but it's the front of the embossing folder that you want to ink. And some people like to do this by applying the ink pad directly to the image. I find it a little bit more accurate to use a brayer, so if you've got a brayer in your collection then I would advise giving that a go. If not, you can always take your ink pad directly to it. So I'm using Coastal Cabana from Stampin' Up, but you could use any dye ink pad that you've got in your collection. I would say that using a brayer, it kind of stretches out the ink so you don't get as dark a shade as you would if you apply the ink directly from the stamp pad. So choose a darker shade of ink than you want it to look. So now that that's inked up, I can add in my paper. I'm doing a full panel even though I'm not going to use it all because I can use it on several cards. And then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. So there's my panel. You can see there's a few bits where the ink hasn't transferred. So if I was to do this again, I'd put an extra shim in just to make sure that there's a bit of extra pressure to make sure the ink transfers there as well. But because I'm just going to use a small panel of this, rather than get rid of this, I'm just going to use a small panel and I'm going to position my sentiment so that it covers where the ink's not transferred properly. So then I'm going to start colouring this, and I've got R2.2 of the Olo markers. So this is a nice pink, and I'm just going to colour using this. So then I'm going to take my silver paint marker and just add in some of the details with there. Then this is the panel now that it's coloured, and you'll see there's some of these areas here that I filled in, and the way I did that was to pick up a bit of the ink from my stamp pad with a blending pen. Any kind of like water-based blending pen should be fine, and then just using that to add the colour onto here. It's not perfect, but I think it does a really good job, and I think you can't really tell unless you look really closely. So I cut this panel down to 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and then I cut this one to 1/8 of an inch bigger than that. And then I've got a mint green card base. Then I just want to heat emboss a sentiment. And I'm going to use this Merry Christmas. That's from this month's Stamp and Die of the Month. So it's loads of sentiments with some cute little snowflakes. And that comes with dies to cut out the sentiments and the snowflakes as well. If you want to see any of this month's clubs in more detail, then there's a sneak peek video that I'll link below that you can look at. So then I'm just going to heat emboss this Merry Christmas, and I'm going to heat emboss it in silver onto that pink cardstock that I used for the mat. So then I'm going to cut this out with a coordinating die. So then I'm going to layer together these two pieces. Now I'm going to add some foam to the back to pop that layer off. I've talked about this foam a few times now because I really like it. It's adhesive on one side and not on the other. I like that because it allows me a bit of wiggle room when I'm putting it on the card because I'm using the glue. So then I'm going to add some foam strips behind my sentiment. I'm going to add that on there. And then I'm going to grab some of these fashion silver embellishments from Spellbinders and just add them into the centre of the snowflakes. So there's our finished card, and that embossing folder, because we've done so much with it, has become the focal point of our card. And I really like that because I think in relative terms, embossing folders are a pretty inexpensive tool in our craft room. So if we can make them stretch further as well and get even more value for money, then I think they become a really useful tool. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.